Hello! This is a review of the final game of the 15th Hiroshima Aluminum Cup. This is a tournament for younger players, so the players must be at most 30 years old and also at most 7 dan. The finalists this year were Fujisawa Rina 4 dan and Sunje 7 dan. You can also see here their ratings and rankings from goratings.org, which are more indicative of relative strength than professional dan ranks. The final game between these two went over 300 moves and was decided by just half a point in the end. Maybe you've already seen the news about who won, but in case you haven't, I will keep the review spoiler-free until then about who won. Instead of making one very long video about this game, I will make 24 short videos. So every day from today, the 1st of December, to the 24th of December, I will upload a new video and they will be 5 to 10 minutes each. I want to try this new format for two reasons. The main one is that I hope that the short videos will be easier and more fun to watch than my hour-long videos. But also I think it's a good exercise for me to focus on only a small part of the game at a time and try to make some sort of interesting goal lesson from that part. I didn't cherry pick this game for this format specifically. It's not like I looked through dozens of games and this one was the most interesting. I just wanted some game that went accounting, and I ended up picking this recent game from the final of this tournament. So let's start looking at the game. Playing black is Zunje, and playing white is Fujisawa Rina. They are playing Japanese rules with 6.5 komi. And in the opening, we see black taking 2, 3, 4 points, and white takes 2, 4, 4 points. And the first part I want to comment on is this next move here, where black is going to make an enclosure in the upper right corner. And there are 4 reasonable moves to enclose a corner. We usually name this as the 1 space low enclosure, 2 space low enclosure, 1 space high enclosure, and 2 space high enclosure. And I would say historically the 1 space low has really been the most common. And after that maybe the 2 space low and 1 space high, and the 2 space high was actually the most rare one. It was played sometimes even, hundreds of years ago, but very, not very commonly. But now with AI, it's actually a very common move. AIs really like this move, so professionals have been playing it a lot too. And it puts more emphasis on territory than influence, more emphasis on influence than territory. The corner is definitely still up for grabs. It's not like white will not invade right away, but I would say usually in these sort of positions, it's not at all uncommon for white to take away some of this territory for the end of the game. But then black will get some sort of influence in their return. So all these 4 enclosures are completely playable. It's not like the differences, even for an AI, the differences are just like 1 or 2 percentage points between them, at least in this case. So I would say you can try out any of these in your game and have fun with them, but this is maybe the most modern one nowadays. And next up, white is going to approach the lower right corner, and actually the possible approach moves are exactly the same as the enclosure moves. So we have the 1 space low approach, 2 space low approach, 1 space high approach, and 2 space high approach. And in this case, I would say it's a bit clearer that 2 of these are worse than the others locally. So I would say that playing any one of the 2 space approaches is sort of a special case move, which you normally play when you don't want to get pincered. You have some reason for you think a pincer is uncomfortable, and you would prefer to get some result along these lines where you can just extend peacefully along the side. But then normally you give up a bit of a larger corner in return. So we can see like in this position, black has a very comfortable corner and white just has a, the bare minimum of a group, a 2 space extension along the side. So white is going to be okay with this group, but this is like locally black is a bit better here. So white has to have some special reason for going into this variation normally. And similarly, if white goes for the 2 space high approach, black is going to get a very nice big corner. So this is, again, it's not a huge difference, but I would say the two-space approaches are a bit of a special case consideration. So you can choose between the one-space low approach and high-space low approach. Those are the two most common options. And in this case, it's really not a big difference between them. It's largely a matter of style. Fujisawa goes for the high approach in this case, and black attaches underneath to take a big corner here. So this is a really common and simple Joseki. We can talk a little bit maybe about, so this last move here, I made a Katago review recently where I talked about Katago making this move, which I found quite interesting. This would be a mistake in this case because in that particular Katago game, this stone was black in the sort of opposite corner. And that meant that black had more potential to build here along the bottom. In this case, it's white has potential to build here, so white will be very happy to get this nice point aiming at this weakness, and we could get some result like this. And this is like slightly better for white. So black shouldn't try out this new move in this situation, but just go for the simple one space jump here. So this makes the lower side a bit uninteresting after black has this really strong low stone here. Now for white, white also has a choice of making a high move or a low move here. And these are very similar. I'd say both are perfectly playable, but Fujisawa goes for the high one in the game. Now for the next move, black is going to approach one of the white corners. And approaching for 4 points is a little bit easier than approaching 3-4 points. There's only one option, not the 4 different ones we were looking at with the 3-4 point. But we still have the option here of which corner should we actually approach. So black could approach the upper corner or the lower corner. So I'll just leave this as a quiz for the next video. Do you think black should approach the upper side or the lower side? So you can leave your response and your reasoning in the comments, and check back tomorrow to see how the game continues.